You're not broken. You are not broken. No matter what you have done, or no matter what's been done to you, you're not broken. Just slow things down a little and look. I promise you're not broken. These algorithms that we inherit from our parents and from media and our environment and our all our interrelations that create the conditions of our life up to this moment. We take those on as personal because we believe we're a personal, separate self in this giant outside reality. So it makes us feel small and afraid, protective, shameful, worried, unconfident, judgmental, contracted. So, up until now, all those things have been part of everything that you see and have in your life and makes you unsure, makes you feel worthless or broken, or that something's wrong with you. But I invite you to look much deeper. There's something here that's not any of that. It is a clear light of presence, of immediacy. It is infused in every part of the algorithm. And the algorithm appears from that and as it. No separation, not two. But what happens with identification is there's like consciousness, whatever that is, and then there's conditioned patterns of consciousness. This wide open expanse that you might call a baby. And then it gets conditioned with patterns 1, 2, 3, ABC, red apple, blue car. And then it starts to get conditioned with patterns from parents who are their own algorithms conditioned from previous patterns. And those patterns and conditions are introduced to this consciousness that they call a baby, and then a toddler, and a kid, and a teenager, and then an adult. And we can be conditioned in skillful or unskillful ways. And then we can grow into an adult and believe those patterned conditions are us. But we are the unconditioned. And the conditioning that appears If you had like a string and you tied it into a knot, the knot is still made up of the string. It is just knotted up now. But all throughout the knot, as it runs through, is still the string. So within all of the conditioned is still the unconditioned, which makes it up. And those knots can be unknotted. The way the algorithm fascia keeps tightened and strong and feeling solid is belief and identification and making conclusions about self and about the world. As you go deeper, these conclusions and these certainties and these beliefs can be loosened dramatically, and many can fall away. Most can fall away. And what can be left is immediacy, not conclusions, way less judgments about self and others. The pivotal point for me with awakening in any part of the process is taking it less and less personal. As you wake up out of yourself as a separate individual, those kind of conclusions start to not be necessary. So as I work with people, and I just got back from Angela's retreat, and I did a lot of Q&As, and I work with people on my Zooms and all that, a lot of people just kind of don't feel they have a right to be here or a right to exist. That thought that they're believing, that thought of identification, of believing, of separateness, makes them feel all kinds of ways. Lots of judgments towards themselves. Lots of time thoughts. They feel a need to play small in a way, or not take up space, or kind of a walking on eggshells kind of situation. That wasn't my problem. I had different problems. But I do see that a lot in the people that I work with who are amazing people. And they're doing a great job. But what I want to say is the pivotal moment that I think that awakening or further realization really blossoms is when you get tired of the suffering enough that you really look close at these processes that identification with thought is given. And the closer you look, the less grasping there is, and the more impersonal it gets. So the identification hooks you with the small self by making judgments and having thoughts about time. I find judgments to be a really big one. And conclusions about, what reality is and what my limited life is. And for me, one of my big ones was I'm an introvert and I can't do this and this. Oh, I could never do that. I could never talk to people into a camera on YouTube. I couldn't do that. 3 or 4 years ago, I couldn't do that. But not because it couldn't be done, but because those beliefs and judgments I had compartmentalized and made conclusions about consciousness. And it was sort of like an electric fence around my reality tunnel that told me what I was. Told me back in the day that I was depressed and that I should unalive myself, or, things are not working out. or the universe is against me, and various other wonderful things that I used to say. And all that time, I felt like after the first awakening, and I knew I wasn't thoughts, but thoughts felt like they were attacking me, and they were believed. And it was pretty strange to be in the witness state and, go into disassociation because of it and all that kind of stuff. But what I really want to pinpoint in this video is that moment where you start radically self-accepting yourself as you are. Because I think you have to first take up space and feel you have a right to exist and to have a voice and a response, just the overall right to be here, before you then can ironically see that you don't exist as you thought you did. So I really invite you to radical self-acceptance. And the personal feelings that come up, thoughts and feelings that are part of this algorithm that were conditions based and continue to be, are keeping you in a solid life. It feels solid because it keeps rebuilding. Your algorithm keeps rebuilding around the same thoughts and beliefs that were given by other conditioned patterns. So I invite you, for a while at least, to give it a try. To try to relax around this idea, all these ideas about conclusions about yourself that are negative or limited or whatever. And to try to look at this much more impersonally. To question everything that you think that is limited or that is making a conclusion or a judgment. So on the path, you might say, oh, this is taking forever. And just ask, is that true? Just don't take the mind's word for that. That is, the identification is not questioning. And when you have a judgment thought that says, I just can't do this, I'm an introvert, I'm not that type of person, oh, I could never do that. Really question that belief. Is that true? And ease up on the judgment. You might even label it, that's a judgment thought. And just see that judgment and see what it does to the system or the judgment of others. See how these frames that we frame consciousness in contracts us around certain ideas and beliefs about our reality, our projection of reality. Even a simple turning a phrase when I was younger, when I used to say I'm depressed or I'm a depressed person. And I started to depersonalize it a little bit more. And, depression is here right now. Depression is a movement of energy or a bundle of thoughts and energy that are moving like a storm. I used to say it was like it was like a really bad storm, like a tornado or a hurricane. And then when depression was really bad, I felt like I could just barely hold on. But the holding on was a protection. It's like I didn't have to hold on. I could be the entire storm. Radically self-accepting what was here in the present moment, no matter what it was or what it felt like. And also at the same time realizing that it's impermanent, that it's unsatisfactory, and that there's no one here doing that. It is a conditioned pattern. It is a conditioned pattern built from old other conditioned patterns. And when you really look and really see that, there can be an ungrasping around experience, an uncontracting, right here, right now, not in the future. And when you can take that a little more impersonally and start to see it as not as me who is doing this, but a conditioned pattern of the unconditioned, that relaxation will give you some relief and allow you to look. And it'll also allow you to accept that appearance of consciousness as you and not something to be should or shouldn't away, controlled, or dealt with, or pushed. Just accepted without touching. Hands off. Just feeling, just allowing it to be there. And allowing whatever thoughts are coming up and seeing all of that and noticing that there's an aspect of this experience that's taking that in that isn't it, but not as a separation. This would be responded as, a Rigpa, unconditioned, unborn. Some say awareness. Any of that. But the important part of that is those are just words. I'm not interested in philosophy. I'm interested in slowing down right here in the moment and feeling into what that is. Right here, right now, what is this? And then letting here and now fall away too. To me, it's very mysterious. But mysterious is a word. It is another concept, a thought. What isn't any of that that's taking all this in that also isn't separate? What doesn't need to make, what's here that doesn't need to make a move? What doesn't need anything to be different than the way it is showing up, regardless of what it is? This whole pushing and pulling with things, this contracting around, if you could give that up for a little while and just try out what I'm saying, radical self-acceptance, whatever that self appears to be showing up as. And when the judgments come, noticing what they are as judgments and then just letting that go. Not forcefully, just seeing it. It's just a judgment thought. It's not Tony telling himself that he's that. It's a conditioned pattern of consciousness. Like a whirlpool. Whirlpool is not separate from the water. It is a formation in consciousness. Formation of the ocean. A conditioning that you have is a formation of a whirlpool in consciousness. An energetic contraction or turning that appears as something that it actually isn't separate, isn't by itself appearing. It requires the water to appear. And when the proper conditions go away, it unappears. This is how your algorithm is built. There's nothing personal that you need to take there. And this applies to any therapy, any shadow work, any circling, any regular therapy. Doing parts work, then identity comes up. Where does it come up? It comes up right here and now. You don't go to the past to grab an identity. The past is a thought. The future is a thought. Both are happening right here, right now. So if you're working with an identity, you can work with that from reality's eyes. Bring that young kid who was needed in protection. You could bring it right here. and you can radically accept what it needed, what it was afraid of, what kind of protections it created, and why. And there can be a loosening of judgment around that. Do you see how the relaxation of that, of accepting that, can take away the contraction of the moment? But saying that kid shouldn't have done that, or that kid made this and his life is this now, and all those thoughts that you're believing about this immediate moment, that can simply be released by noticing what they are and then relaxing back into presence. You don't need to judge. You don't need to make conclusions about this. There's nothing wrong with you. There never has been. No matter what was done to you, and no matter what you've done to others. That karma can be seen through. I don't look at karma in a moral way. I look at it as a conditioned pattern. And if you hurt people because you were hurt as a child, that doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. There is something, we could say, unskillful happening, but it doesn't require judgment. It just requires seeing. Seeing releases the contraction. Seeing releases the suffering that thought is imputing onto this consciousness, and the suffering that thought is imputing onto other consciousnesses. And none of it has to be grabbed. It can just be seen, just relaxed. You don't always have to go for the next goal. When people achieve a goal, they think, oh, I achieved the goal, now I feel good. But then soon there's another goal that needs to be achieved. You get a Ferrari, smells great, drives great, looks cool. 6 months later, you're like, oh, it's just more plastic and metal. More money, more problems. Who said that? Biggie Smalls? I don't know. Some rapper said it. Not grasping, not needing, unattached to fixed ideas and conclusions. That's relief. The moment a goal is met, before the next goal starts to be worked on, that's what feels good. And I'm not saying goals are bad or stopping goals. I'm saying, what's the goal happening in that can be seen right now and doesn't require a separate controller to see or be involved in? Just conditions rolling on. More causes and conditions co-arising together. Something there, some kind of seeing without a center, is taking all that in. And it doesn't need judgment. It doesn't need conclusions. It's presence. It's consciousness. It's here right now. Always has and always will. You are that. You are not the thoughts swarming around in there. You're not the identification with those thoughts. You are equalized in and as the field. See that really clearly. And forgive others and forgive yourself. The conditions know not what they do. The algorithm is just a conditioned pattern of consciousness. And with seeing, it could be unconditioned. No fight, no blame. You're not broken, and you never were.